Welcome to our channel. In today's video, we're diving into the spooky world of night shifts with 3 chilling horror stories. Strange things can happen late at night when everything is dark and quiet. Lights flicker, casting spooky shadows, and eerie noises fill the air. Workers on the night shift often share tales of weird and creepy experiences. So here, we'll explore 3 terrifying stories where reality blurs with nightmares. Each tale will leave you wondering if these strange events are just made-up stories or real-life encounters. I just started this channel, so don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. My name is Mike. I was tall, strong, and not easily scared. When I needed a job, I took a night shift cleaning at an old church in town. It was a beautiful place during the day with its tall stained glass windows and grand organ, but at night, it turned into something else entirely. The church had an attic that was rarely visited, and in it was an old, dusty piano that no one ever played. Or so I thought. It was broken, which was why it was upstairs in the attic. One night, I was alone, sweeping the aisles and dusting the pews. The church was silent except for the occasional creak of the old building settling. The wind howled outside, making the windows rattle. Suddenly, I heard soft piano music drifting down from the attic. I stopped and listened. The music was slow and haunting. Who could be playing the piano, I wondered. I'd always thought it was broken, so it was stored in the attic. I immediately assumed someone was up there pranking me, so I decided to investigate. I climbed the narrow, creaky stairs to the attic. Each step echoed through the empty church, sending chills down my spine. When I reached the top, the music abruptly stopped. The attic was dark and cold. I could see my breath in the air. My flashlight danced around the dusty room, finally landing on the old piano. It stood silent in the corner, covered in cobwebs. "Hello?" I called out, but there was no answer. The silence was deafening. I walked over to the piano and touched the keys. They were ice cold. Suddenly, I felt a cold breeze brush past me, even though there were no windows open. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Just as I turned to leave, there was a loud bang behind a metal door on the other side of the attic. My heart pounded as I stared at the door, frozen in fear. Is someone there?" I asked, my voice trembling. There was no response, only an eerie silence. Gathering my courage, I slowly approached the door. It was an old, rusty metal door, and it looked like it hadn't been opened in years. My hand shook as I reached for the handle. Just as I was about to touch it, the door banged again, louder this time. I jumped back, my heart racing. I decided it was best to leave and hurried down the stairs, nearly tripping in my haste. When I got back to the main hall, I realized I was sweating and breathing hard. I quickly finished my cleaning, constantly looking over my shoulder. The next morning, I asked the only other person who worked night shifts about the strange events. She looked at me with wide eyes and nodded. "Weird stuff happens here all the time," she said. "I've heard whispers, seen shadows moving, and once I even saw a figure standing in the doorway of the attic. But when I went to check, there was no one there." Many years ago in this church, a girl was murdered. She used to work here and was very poor, struggling to make ends meet. The night she received her first salary payment, some thugs broke into the church, stole her money, and locked her in a room where they killed her. Since then, many strange and bizarre events have occurred in this church at night, but she has never harmed anyone. That piano belongs to her. She used to stay here at night and play it. I felt a chill run down my spine. I knew I couldn't keep working nights in the church. Years later, I still remember the haunted church. I often wonder what was behind that metal door in the attic. Was it just the wind? Or was there something more sinister lurking in the shadows? I never found out, but the memory of that night still haunts me. A reminder that some places hold secrets that are better left unexplored, especially in the dead of night. My name is Tom, and I used to work at a petrol station on the night shift. It seemed like a quiet job. The customers paid through a service window since the main door was locked at night. Little did I know this job would turn into a nightmare. One night, as I was working alone, a strange man started coming to the station. He always wore a hoodie pulled low over his face, hiding his features. He would stand in front of the locked doors, motionless and silent, for about 10 minutes before leaving. It was unnerving, but I stayed inside, unsure of what he wanted. This routine continued for several nights without incident. Then, one night after he left, I went to the back room to retrieve something. When I returned to my seat at the till, I glanced up and froze in terror. The man had pressed his face against the service window, his eyes wide and crazed, licking the glass with a disturbing intensity. My heart raced as I stared at him, paralyzed by fear. After what seemed like an eternity, he abruptly pulled away and disappeared into the darkness. That chilling encounter shook me to the core, and from that moment on, I refused to work any more night shifts. But the horror didn't end there. A few nights later, on what was supposed to be my final night shift, I heard a strange scratching noise coming from the storage room at the back of the station. Fear gripped me as I cautiously approached the source of the sound. When I opened the door, I was met with a sight that chilled me to the bone. There he was again, the creepy man, his fingernails scraping against the walls with a disturbing rhythm. He turned towards me, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling glow in the dim light. I gasped, dropping my flashlight in sheer terror. "Who are you? What do you want?" I managed to stammer, but he remained silent, his twisted smile sending shivers down my spine. As he began to advance towards me, a surge of adrenaline shot through me. I grabbed a heavy wrench from the toolbox nearby, brandishing it in front of me defensively. "Stay back," I shouted, my voice trembling, but he continued to approach, his movements slow and deliberate. With no other option, I swung the wrench with all my strength, narrowly missing him as he dodged and lunged towards me. His icy grip closed around my arm, sending a jolt of terror through me. Suddenly, the sound of approaching sirens pierced the night. The police had been alerted, likely by the silent alarm I had forgotten about in my panic. The man released his grip and disappeared into the darkness before the police arrived. They searched the area thoroughly, but found no trace of him. The police told me he's a psycho person who harasses people. After that harrowing night, I quit my job at the petrol station. The memory of those wild eyes and that chilling smile still haunt me. I may never know why he targeted me or what drove him to such madness, but one thing is certain. I learned the hard way that some nights bring terrors you can never forget. Even after quitting my job at the petrol station, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I moved to a new apartment, hoping a change of scenery would bring relief, but the paranoia followed me like a shadow. Every unfamiliar face on the street sent a shiver down my spine. Every unexpected noise made my heart race. The police investigation yielded no leads, leaving me with more questions than answers. Who was that man? What did he want from me? The rational part of my mind knew I might never find out, but that fear lingered, a constant reminder of the vulnerability that had been exposed by that night. But one thing I know for certain: I survived, and though the horror of that night will always be a part of me, I refuse to let it define who I am. My name is Jack, and I worked as a night guard at a very old cinema. It was a job I did because people were afraid of bad things happening in that area. The cinema's been around for a long time, since the 1960s. People talked about stories that were kind of scary, like one about a lady who might have done something sad inside one of the movie rooms. I didn't think much about those stories until one night when everything changed. One evening, as I walked around the dark cinema, I heard soft music. It sounded strange, like sad music from a long time ago. I followed the sound to a hallway that seemed longer than usual, and shadows moved on the walls. I peeked into a room that wasn't very bright, but I couldn't believe what I saw. An old movie in black and white played on the big screen, showing scenes from a time long ago. The air smelled thick with perfume, sweet like flowers, but also kind of strange. The smell made the room feel spooky, like something from another world. Feeling scared but curious, I went inside. There were no people in the seats, but the music kept playing quietly. I used my flashlight to look around, but I didn't see anyone. I felt more and more scared. I went back to the room where I could watch what happened with the cameras and see why the old movie was playing. But when I got there, the screens were black, showed nothing. I looked through the recordings, but there was no sign of a movie playing that night. I went back to the room where the movie was playing, thinking it would be empty again. But when I stepped inside, the movie was gone. Everything was quiet. The perfume smell was still there, making me even more scared. The next day, I asked about old movies at the cinema. They said they didn't have any old films, especially not in black and white. I felt confused and scared, wondering if I'd imagined everything. I worked a few more nights, but strange things kept happening. I saw shadows moving, heard whispers, even though no one was there. One night, I heard someone say my name softly. I turned around and saw a dark figure at the end of the hall. It looked like a person, but then it disappeared into thin air, leaving me shaking with fear. After many nights of strange things happening at the old cinema, things finally quieted down. There was less bad stuff happening in the area. I stopped working at the cinema. I was relieved to be away from the unsettling experiences, but I always remembered the ghostly film, the whispers in the halls, and the chilling moments when it felt like someone unseen was watching. The story of the gangster's mistress and the secrets of the cinema remain a mystery, reminding me that some things are just too strange to explain. Thank you for watching this, and I appreciate your support. Which story do you like the most? Have you ever experienced any horror scenes near you? Comment down below and share your thoughts and stories with us. If you enjoyed, hit subscribe for more horror stories. Don't forget to share with friends who love creepy adventures. Stay safe and curious.